acronym, please welcome Scott Carrington.
Should be there we go. Good morning. Yeah, real quick thanks to the Media Post folks. This event's been awesome. Just great content, great conversation, a lot of fun. That's bright up here. And then thanks for everybody for hanging around. I know I get the 9 a.m. Saturday slot, so I don't know how that happened, but mental note. So, yep, Scott Carrington, Director of Digital Impact. Today's case study is transforming brand values into tangible action. Is there any way to throw the upfront screen on? Oh, yeah, no problem. So I'm going to talk about a case study today, a project that I spearheaded along with a few others starting back in 2016 called Patagonia ActionWorks. But it's really important that we couch the conversation in Patagonia, the company, in the history. A lot of people probably know the logo, probably know the silhouette, but it's really important to know the brand story. So Patagonia was founded in 1971 by a climber, surfer, Yvon Chouinard, to make the best possible product. He was making product for his friends back in the day, climbers who were hanging off of El Capitan and Yosemite. So it had to work. It was really like life or death in some instances. So our criteria for the best product rests on functionality, repairability, and durability. And that's super important because if your product lasts and is repairable, you don't need to buy more of it. One of the best things you can do as an individual for the environment is just keep your stuff in use longer. We guarantee everything we make to back that up. We put our money where our mouth is. So if you don't like your product a day from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, send it back. We'll repair it, we'll buy it back, or we'll refund you your money. Patagonia's long realized that everything we make has an impact on the planet. It's extractive at the end of the day. So prior to 2016, our mission statement was to make the best possible product, cause the least amount of harm, and use business to inspire solutions to the environmental crisis. So we've always worn our values or put our values forward. In 2018, we changed our mission to we're in business to save our home planet. No small task. So we aim collectively to use all the resources that we have, our voice, our business, our community, to do something about the climate crisis. And so a couple photos here. This is Yvon Chouinard and some of the early founders at Patagonia, and even before that, Chouinard Equipment, which was the hard goods company, in a tin shed that's still on the Ventura campus, where Yvon and others would as blacksmith, hammer out pitons. Those are the things you smash into the, not smash, but you put in between the cracks in the rocks and fasten your ropes on. So OneWare is our reuse program. That little icon that's fuzzy there, that's our ironclad guarantee. That's where we'll take anything back, guarantee everything we make. Important for this conversation is that 1% for the Planet logo. So we are a founding member of 1% for the Planet. So we give 1% of all total revenue back to environmental grassroots organizations. Most of them have operating budgets of under $1 million. We were the first public certified B Corp in California. B Corps put planet and people right beside profit. And then we've always have a history of running pretty impactful campaigns. So this example here, $10 million for the planet. We gave away all of our revenue on Black Friday a few years ago and gave it out to these same groups. The latest example of transforming brand values into action or putting them into action, you probably or maybe caught this a few weeks ago. The founders of Patagonia gave the company away. Yvon is now actually an employee and not an owner of Patagonia. The company sits in a purpose trust, and everything that doesn't get reinvested into the business goes into a collection of nonprofits, and that gets allocated towards environmental causes. That brings us to Patagonia ActionWorks. I want to play the video, the 2-minute launch video, when we brought this to market back in 2018.
If you've been paying attention, you'll know that things aren't going very well for the planet. It's pretty easy to get depressed about it. I've always known that the cure for depression is action. Patagonia's reason for existence is to force government and corporations to take action in solving our environmental problems. Over the last 35 years, we've given nearly $90 million to grassroots activists. And we've trained hundreds, maybe thousands, of young activists to be more effective in their campaigns. So we've had lots of, you might call them victories, but recently things have gotten a lot worse. And we've asked ourselves, what more can we do?
If we could connect our community, our friends, our customers, directly with local groups near where they live, working on issues that they're passionate about, suddenly these organizations would have the capacity to achieve even more. How cool would that be? Everybody has a role to play in a movement. There's something for everyone.
The platform that Patagonia is creating really presents the opportunity for doing it differently.
When we're needing help or we're needing voices, ActionWorks will really help us get that word out and amplify what the community is asking for and encourage others to participate with us.
So that's what Patagonia ActionWorks is. It's kind of a dating site.
Patagonia ActionWorks is a digital tool that facilitates human connection. Visit the site to search for issues that you're passionate about, and we'll connect you with the people doing the critical work of grassroots environmental action.
There needs to be a response that matches the size of the crisis.
Okay, so we created a Tinder for activism, I guess. But really, yeah, connecting committed individuals and organizations to groups who are working on environmental issues in their community. So as an individual, you can find events in your area, you can sign petitions, you can donate, or you can volunteer your skills. So how do we end up, though, with this toolkit? Well, we went out and did qualitative and quantitative research. I think I mentioned it, but we give to over 1,400 groups. So we went out, held focus groups, surveys, and this is what the grantees and the organizations told us they needed. They needed connection to our community. They needed people at their events. It doesn't take much. You can get 10 people to a city council meeting. You can really make an impact. Same thing with a petition. We'll go through the results here, but you get 100 people and you can take that to your local official. That means something. Tells that person that the community cares about this particular issue. Skilled volunteering. This is if you're a lawyer or an accountant or a digital marketer, you can go and work with these groups, give your time. And then donation. So quick timeline of the program. So this really started with a CEO mandate. You kind of got a feel for it in the video, but we've been giving for a long time, but what more could we do? What could we do outside of monetary gifting? And so we got to work. We did that qualitative and quantitative research. By 2017, we were getting ready to launch a few different pilot programs. We made our first full-time hire mid-year in 2017. By the time we were ready to launch, we had a dedicated team of 3. We brought that to market. We brought ActionWorks to market in North America in early 2018. By summer of 2019, we were launching in Europe. COVID, like it did for so many, derailed some of what we were doing, but we're back. We've got some big expansion plans. We want to bring ActionWorks more into the purchase path and into Patagonia.com, meet people where they are, work with some of the activism marketplaces that are out there, expand beyond just groups that we give to, really invest in personalization and first-party first-party data, and then resource the team. Budgets continue to grow, and it's always a bit of a tug and war for budget, but we're pretty confident about where we're headed. So how are we doing? Skilled volunteering. We've saved these groups over $12 million since 2017. That equates to 69,000 hours of skill-based volunteering. There's one example here from the PowerShift network in DC. They've run 18 projects through this platform and saved nearly $83,000. And again, their operating budget is probably under $1 million, so it's a pretty big impact. Petitions, we're nearing the 1 million mark in terms of petition signatures initiated. Here's a few local petitions that you can get involved with here in Austin. Again, that may not sound like a big number, but it only takes a couple hundred people to sign a petition to really make an impact. Same thing with events. So if you can get 10 people at a city council meeting, that can have a huge impact. So we're nearing the 600,000 event RSVPs. And then lastly, we've raised over $12 million through the donations part of the platform. Our community, through this program, we've attracted over 700,000 individuals, activists to the platform and into our SMS and email databases. There's only a 30% overlap here with our customer database. We've served over 250 million impressions through what we call our social amplification program. So anytime an event or a petition comes in from a particular group, we run paid social ads on their behalf. And the group that has come into Patagonia through Patagonia ActionWorks is just like immediately values aligned, right? So they already see us with, we're there, we're aligned at a values level. It's issues that they already care about, and we're getting involved. So it's not like they're necessarily, there's a lot of people who didn't know anything about Patagonia until they came in through ActionWorks. And then the audience is very demographically diverse, much younger, spread all across the country. So I often get asked, kind of walk people through this program, how we started. Like, wow, that's awesome. How do I get involved, or how do we get our company involved? We got a call from West Elm shortly after we launched. And it's a pretty hard question to answer, because in Patagonia's case, you have founders that are just as committed as you can get to solving the environmental crisis. So, and it's a 100% family-owned business, so they can sort of stick to their guns. So what I'm going to share here, though, is a framework that I've lifted from a Patagonia board member, Dr. Ayanna Johnson. She's the host of the podcast How to Save a Planet, marine biologist and a board member. So and you can use this at the corporate level or at the individual level. And at Patagonia, when we ask ourselves, well, what are we good at? We're good marketers. We're good at storytelling. We're good at especially digital marketing and e-commerce and community building. We know the work that needs doing. There needs to be local issue awareness and education. Community engagement is absolutely critical. We need volunteers. We need people out there off the couch and in the streets. And then what brings you joy? And this part is critical, because this, I think, brings longevity to any of this. You've got to get joy out of this work. So we know that we are protecting wild places. We love outdoor recreation, and then clean air and clean water for our kids. So that really became our sweet spot. And you can apply this. Doesn't have to be applied to the environmental crisis. You could apply this to, I don't know, solving the homelessness that you see here on Congress Street. So with that, if you want to get involved, you can sign up for, you can take out those phones and sign up for action alerts through Patagonia ActionWorks by texting ACT to 71333. I'll open it up for some questions. I think we're probably doing it right in time.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, questions. Any questions for Daniel? How are you most effectively driving people to this piece of the Patagonia experience? Are you weaving it into the commercial experience at all, so that it actually becomes part of the e-commerce experience for them?
That's a big goal for this year. You'll see in the main navigation on Patagonia.com, activism, and there's a sub-nav in there, and you can go right in to see petitions, take action. You'll see that text call to action. We are working on bringing some of that content into the purchase path, right? So on the product listing page, maybe you find an event in your area on that page. But we also very much know keep conversion rates high. We don't necessarily need to bring people through our site. In many cases, we send people directly to the group's site so they can sign the petition or RSVP for an event. And so paid social is a huge way that we do this and drive right into those, because we don't have a petition platform integration just yet in the site. It's something that we're working on. So we don't even send a lot of people through Patagonia.com or Patagonia ActionWorks.
I know Patagonia sort of famously likes to keep its cause-related efforts separate from its commercial efforts and talking about them. But are you seeing in any way some sort of brand lift that comes from this sort of work, or do you do brand studies that are sort of focused on the ways in which Patagonia is regarded as a brand that is really based in a cause?
We do. We don't necessarily look at what the people are going on to do and how they, like, say, engage with the brand in a commercial way. I don't even want to know. This is not about, making money. We don't want to serve board shorts to somebody that engaged with us through like a surf rider, beach cleanup. Just feels gross. But we do know, and I guess there are proof points here. Like I think it's Axios, put out like the most trusted brands in America survey. I don't know if it was earlier this year or 2021, we're the most trusted brand in America. So, and I think for these kind of reasons in these examples. So.
Hey Scott, appreciate the presentation. Really enjoyed it. Eric with Beard Brand for those watching. But I was curious what your vetting process looks like and what kind of like liabilities and risks that you have by aligning with such small, nonprofits that may or may not have some malicious intents that you're unaware of.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've been granting to organizations for a long time. So we have a full organization, someone that leads our grants management team. And it's a very bottom-up process. So if you work at a Patagonia retail store, those are the folks that are doing the research on the local groups, have the relationships, and are directing those funds. So it's very bottom-up. So we're in those communities. They are vetted. You have to, in the past you had to find out about Patagonia's granting opportunities. You would apply, and then there's a full vetting process. Those are reviewed. Not everybody gets a grant, and at this point, it's very much invite only. So that's there's control mechanisms in place for that by the time you get onboarded onto ActionWorks.
I have a quick question. Sarah Mahoney, Media Post. We saw some footage of bears' ears, and I'm curious, that was a very bold, even for Patagonia, that was very bold, suing the president, the sitting president. What kind of momentum, so it was very nervy, what kind of momentum did you get from that?
We got a lot of social media trolls. But yeah, I mean, it's another example. I mean, you're seeing a ton of progress on that issue. You can't kind of come in to these issues and show up for a big sort of splashy moment to bring awareness to the issue. You're in it, and we're in it for the long haul. So that conversation is still happening, and we're still supporting it. And if there's breaking news or something happens, we make sure to update our community either through social media, through SMS or email. Yeah, and don't necessarily look at, you can look at sort of the conversation, right, and the impressions that created at the time. But it's just not, we don't look at it necessarily through that lens. It's good for the issue, of course. And sorry.
No.
Oh yeah, and the groups
just
fighting on behalf of Bears Ears.
Paul Carrington, thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry, there's another one. I missed it.
Hi,
I'm
Marcia
sorry.
Oakes. Had a question. So, of course, Patagonia was founded with a purpose in mind, and so it comes through as so authentic. So, for most companies weren't really founded with that purpose-driven brand. Who do you think is doing a really good job of making that pivot where it comes across as very authentic for the brand in their sustainability efforts as well as being effective with it? I'm assuming that you kind of keep an eye on what other companies are doing in this space. So curious to think who you think is doing a good job there.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier when you start with that sort of purpose in mind, and there are a lot of, I think, outdoor brands that point to Patagonia as an inspiration. Code Epoxy is one of those. Ben & Jerry's has been in it from the beginning, but we always look to them. They really put their necks out there. As far as like in the apparel space, I think Eileen Fisher does a great job in the transparency in the supply chain and that sort of thing. In terms of groups that are pivoting into that space, I think there are a lot of I'm going to just kind of work within the outdoor industry here, but there are a lot of groups. We were really early into the resale circular economy part, of that world of sustainability and launching Wornwear, our platform that I talked about earlier. So you're seeing actually a lot of like high-end fashion brands going that way. They'll buy your product back, they'll refurbish it, and they'll resell it. And that's that's a real huge step forward. There is a lot of like greenwashing out there though, so you have to you kind of have to like take a closer look under the hood, make sure it's real and not a bunch of marketing speak. Yeah, and the bullshit filter is high these days. You'll get called out.
Paul, thanks again.